When I was super little in 3rd grade, my Spanish teacher was actually a fire juggler. So after school, he would stick around and juggle with us, and he taught me the secrets of juggling. Turns out the secret to juggling is patience and practice, and who has time for that?
Sometimes I'm like a whisper in a riot, but I grow stronger, keep believing.
So Easter time is upon us, and what better time to do the video topic of writing Easter eggs? Now for you original kittens from way back in the beginning, you know I've covered this topic once before. In fact, it was the 3rd video ever on this channel. But it's been 2 years, and obviously the quality on this channel has changed quite a lot. Shout out and thank you to, not to Khajiit, he's just here. Those Easter eggs that no one will catch unless I tell them or unless they know me personally.
Why are we still here? Just to suffer?
So, we are rebooting the Easter egg video. So first things first, what is an Easter egg? An Easter egg is a reference, inside joke, image, or message that's included in a piece of creative work. Generally speaking, video games, books, and film. And often in software engineering, but we're not going to be covering the software engineering side of things. So Easter eggs, as a term, originated back in 1979, and it was in the Atari game Adventure. And it was one of the creators of the game inserting his name to protest the fact that the company wasn't crediting the developers for fear of poaching. So it's pretty safe to say that video games are actually the most common place where you'll find Easter eggs. And this could be because of culture, but also likely just the form of consumption. Easter eggs in video games are often designed to only be found by hardcore gamers, or people who are fans of the series so much so that they're looking up guides and reading articles about Easter eggs, and they're going out specifically to look for them. Or people who are trying to get all of the achievements and they're trying to 100% it. So because of the nature of video games, Easter eggs aren't gonna bother people who are just kind of quickly playing through, because odds are they aren't gonna be the ones encountering them. It's gonna be the people putting 60+ hours into the game that are gonna be more likely to actually find the Easter eggs. So the medium itself kind of works as a filter, making sure that the Easter eggs are being served up to the people who are most interested in them. And this is something that actually helps developers because they're needing to fill an entire world. So inserting Easter eggs is a good way for them to get extra ideas. Now Easter eggs have started to find their way pretty prominently into films, such as Pixar. In movies, Easter eggs often take the form of props. And again, the people filling out the scenes need to come up with things to go in the background. So why not use something that's an Easter egg? It's something where, unless you're watching the movie over and over again, odds are you're not gonna notice it. Or unless you're someone specifically looking for Easter eggs, or you're someone who just likes to stare at the background of movies for some reason. Why do you do that? Look at the characters. And they very slowly started to make their way into books, but it is much less common in the book sphere. So let's cover types of Easter eggs. Now, there isn't a lot of information out there on writing Easter eggs, so this is just based on my research and my compiling what I learned and kind of categorizing where they fall. The first type of Easter egg is clues to hidden depths or universes that are tied together. Marvel is notorious for this type of Easter egg. Throughout his films, you'll constantly see different things that reference other films in the Marvel universe, tying them together and reminding viewers that these do take place in generally the same universe. This is the sort of Easter egg that can actually add depth to a world. This type of Easter egg generally only works if your story could feasibly happen in the same universe, but you can sometimes use these to tie together different characters that don't have any on-page connection. The next type of Easter egg is pop culture references. And these are just references to other highly popular forms of media. So these are some of the most common, but also some of the easiest to overuse. And because these are referencing always popular work, it's a lot easier for your readers to recognize them, and thus it's a lot easier for you to oversaturate your work with these references. Also, it should be noted that not all Easter eggs are pop culture references, and not all pop culture references are Easter eggs. Whether or not something is an Easter egg really comes down to execution. For example, a character talking about how much they love Skyrim is not an Easter egg. However, a character offhandedly saying, "Yeah, I used to insult the king all the time until I took an arrow to the knee," could qualify as an Easter egg. Not necessarily a good one, but that is a Skyrim reference that only fans of Skyrim, generally speaking, would recognize. The next type of Easter egg is creators just need some random bit of information and grab whatever pops into their head first. This is likely how the famous Pixar Easter egg A113 started. A designer was probably making a scene and they just needed a random letter and number combo, and they just grabbed something that was familiar to them. For those of you who don't know, A113 is a CalArts classroom that many of the original Pixar designers went to because it was a commonly used art classroom. And then from there, they just started using it all throughout all of the movies. This type of Easter egg is really nice because it often ties into the lives of the creators. But it isn't obvious, and generally speaking, the origin of these Easter eggs isn't explained until it comes up in a Q&A. For example, my main character in Aletheia is named, she has a number for a name, and her number is 736. 736 is the area code of Angel's Camp, which is the city that I grew up in. So when I was trying to come up with a number for her, that was a 3-digit number that's ingrained in my mind. The next type of Easter egg is nods to creators or creations who are friends or inspiration or are somehow tied to the creation containing the Easter egg. This could possibly be an explanation for the Death Stranding Easter eggs in Horizon Zero Dawn. Guerrilla Games' in-house engine Decima is being used by Kojima to make Death Stranding. Another example of this is in Red River. There's a character who I never gave a number before, but he needs to have a number now, so I used the number 626. And that is because I love the movie Lilo and Stitch, and Stitch's number is Experiment 626. It's also additionally appropriate because this character happens to have personality traits very similar to Stitch. He's very wild, but the average person that doesn't know Lilo and Stitch will just pass right over that section and won't think about it twice. And I'd be completely out of line if I didn't mention the PewDiePie reference my girl Jaden managed to sneak into YouTube Rewind 2018. It's something that was so well executed that the people editing together YouTube Rewind did not catch. And last but not least, we have throwing shade and diss Easter eggs. And these are Easter eggs that make fun of a competitor or another story. I do something similar in Aletheia where I make fun of some of the worst dystopian cliches and tropes, but I don't do anything story specific, so it's not technically an Easter egg. But an example of this would be in Deadpool, where he says,
"It's a big house. It's funny that I only ever see 2 of you. It's almost like the studio couldn't afford another X-Man."
Which is sort of throwing shade at the low budget given to this movie. Another example is when Deadpool is undergoing torture, and he begs for his suit to not be green and animated, throwing shade at the Green Lantern film, which Ryan Reynolds also starred in. So here are a few tips for how to write good Easter eggs. First and foremost, it needs to be subtle. As soon as you start putting them under a giant spotlight, they cease to be Easter eggs. A well-crafted Easter egg is something that people won't notice unless they get it. If a fan feels like they need to do a Google search because they feel like they're missing something, the Easter egg has failed. Which is why Easter eggs are so common in video games, less common in films, and even less common in books, which is a written format where subtlety can be hard. This is going to be something that sometimes works, and if it doesn't work, you just skip. Don't overdo it. Anytime someone reads an Easter egg that they get, it breaks their immersion. And it adds a little extra spice to it and helps them connect with you if they like the same thing you do. So it does have its benefits, but if you do it too much, you're going to be constantly breaking their immersion, and you don't want that. Books best lend themselves to random info type Easter eggs. So again, the type that you would bring up in a Q&A, but otherwise no one would realize that the information has any importance. Be careful with name drops. In Aletheia, this happened with one specific character where the character has blonde hair and he's tall and he's like strong. So I gave him the name Ryan, which is one of my high school friends who also has blonde hair and is tall and is strong. And that was a placeholder name that I then got attached to and got lazy and never changed. But then I took that character and I did some really horrible things to him. Now I have this whole awkward situation where it looks like I have this deep buried, deep-seated resentment for my high school friend, and I'm just like expressing this anger through my writing. And I'm stuck with that name and it's awkward. Take a note out of the book of film and weave Easter eggs into props. I did this with Aletheia. In one of the scenes, they're in Jason's room and his walls are just covered in things like pictures and little trinkets and items. So one of the items is a bird entrapped in a circle. So that's a Hunger Games Easter egg. So overall, the most important thing you need to remember is be as subtle as you can. And that was it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like new adult dystopian books, check out Aletheia. If you want to support us and you don't like dystopian books, check out our Patreon at patreon.com/CloudKittenChronicles. Make sure to subscribe and share this video. Give it a thumbs up. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, I will see you in the next video.
Say you